Okay. This is my second attempt at this video. For this reflection, I'm going to be focusing in on one of my close friendships that I have. I think I chose this relationship because it's a real thing. It's not perfect, and that kind of makes it easy to connect to like some of the concepts from our book, especially in chapter 9 and 10. This is someone that I've known for a while, and our friendship has gone through a couple different phases, like going through school together, getting jobs, working together for a little bit. That didn't last very long. And then, like, different kinds of stress we both have in our lives, and just kind of how busy we have both been and become. And I think because of that, I think it shows like why relationships form, and how they change and what it kind of takes to actually maintain them and keep them at that level. Um, so I think I'll start off with like how we form relationships. One concept that applies to friendship, or to this friendship, this friendship is similarity. And then in chapter 9, similarity, it's like it's one of the reasons people are actually like drawn to each other. It's usually because like how we feel more comfortable around people who share our same interests. Like with this friend, it started off with sports. We are on the same sports team, but then we also had like same kind of values, a lot of the same humor back in middle school, and then some experiences. So then with this friend, we first, like I said, connected for sports, and then also just kind of like this some random stuff to talk about school, or and then like now complaining about work, or sending some funny Instagram reels and TikToks to each other without really having to explain the joke. Like we kind of get it, and I think this friendship never felt forced. It was a very natural thing, and it's not like like in other relationships, friendships. I've had to like sit there thinking like, okay, what do I do? What do I say next? But this relationship I'm talking about, it felt very natural from the start, which really helped me, I think, build it up. And then I also think that similarity helped me build trust with this friend. Um, when someone sees things in like a similar way that you do, I think it like I think it makes you feel like they can understand you without needing like a big old explanation for everything or at all really. Like an example I have is if I was stressed about school or work, I didn't really have to explain every little detail behind it for him to understand why I was like kind of annoyed, or overwhelmed, especially with school. This friend, could usually relate to the same stuff because they'd either dealt with it or currently dealing with it, like similar situations. And I don't think that means, or well, it definitely doesn't mean that we agree on everything. There's plenty of things we disagree on now, um, but where'd I go? Let me read my notes. Okay, agree on everything because we definitely don't. Yeah, but we have, we still have enough in common to make the relationship feel very comfortable. And I think that that is, one of the reasons why the friendship has lasted as long as it has instead of just fading out. Like some other friendships or relationships I've been in. And then I also want to talk about for relational dynamics. I think, or not, yeah, relational dynamics. I think relational dialects applies the most for this part, especially the tension between autonomy and connection. In this friendship, I think there are times when we talk more often, daily or close to it, or we want to hang out more or whatever, see each other, do something. And then there's definitely times when it's, I need some space, or one of us is busy, or both of us are busy, which happens quite often. I think that makes it a bit more difficult if, one of the people, like me, let's say, wants connection and the other person is just not responding as much. But, you know, if like it feels personal, even though it's, not really that way. They just need some more space. Um, I think we've kind of worked through that quite a bit, so now it's pretty smooth. But there's occasionally some stuff. And like a specific example would be like I noticed my friend was not texting back too much, and take a long time to respond, or we weren't making plans as we normally did. And like I said earlier, like at first I kind of took it personally and thought maybe they lost interest in the relationship, or something along the lines of that, or friend, yeah. But I kind of later, after asking and finally getting a response and stuff, found out that they were just busy with their own relationships that they have. Um, right, so it wasn't like that they didn't care or anything. It was just balancing the connection with independence, right? Like, I need my space sometimes, be connected, other times it just works out. And then I think all that matters, because relationships are not always like a stable. They're not always stable. Sometimes people are closer, or and sometimes they're definitely more distant. But that automatically mean that doesn't automatically mean that the relationship is like falling apart or failing in any way, really. Um, yeah, I guess the less dramatic way is just distance does not always mean something's wrong. It's just means that like life's a little bit busy, and both people have to adjust to the level of busyness. And then for maintaining relationships, I think concept from chapter 10 that applies or like connects to it really well to this friendship, I mean, is social support. So social support can be emotional, like listening when someone's stressed, or something practical, like helping someone figure out what to do in a certain situation. In this relationship that I'm talking about, emotional support has probably been the most important, especially for me, but definitely both of us. Like for example, there've been a couple of times when I was pretty stressed out about my school assignments. This was more in high school. I've learned to manage it a bit better. So, we're stressed out about school assignments and work and stuff, and just feeling really overwhelmed. And then with this friend being there, like being available to talk to, um, it just really helped calm me down a bit. And then, you know, this friend definitely did not always give the perfect advice or whatever, but they were there to listen, and sometimes that's all you need. I also tried to give that same support back as much as I could. If they're frustrated or something's going on in their life, I'd be there to listen, not try to always give advice, but if they wanted it, sure, ask me, I'll try. Um, yeah, but I've realized now that support's not really always about fixing the problem or comparing stories, comparing this, comparing that. Sometimes it's just about saying, like, yeah, that sounds really frustrating, and then letting the other person feel heard. The second reflection part, I watched the Gottman Institute video on the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Um, those four horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Um, the the one that I think stands out the most to me is like applies to this friendship, I guess, the best is defensiveness. Defensiveness happens when someone responds to a concern by protecting themselves, like instead of actually listening. I think this is really harmful because it turns a small issue into a way bigger issue than it actually is, or a bigger argument. A specific time that I noticed this was when my friend brought up that I'd been bad at responding to messages, and it felt like, they were always the one making plans, right? I think we all kind of know what that's like. And instead of just hearing my friend out, my first reaction was like, just to explain myself, like, oh, I've been busy, or I didn't mean it, like that. Even though that was true, it probably like came across as, I'm brushing it off, or I don't really care about it that much. And that's, I was like more focused on defending myself, rather than understanding like how they actually felt in that situation. And then, oh my goodness, where am I? That affected the relationship because it made the conversation feel more tense than it needed to be. And my friend probably just wanted to be acknowledged more than anything else, not debate me. And then, kind of like looking back over this, a better response would have been like, yeah, I can see how that felt one-sided. I've had a lot going on recently, but I should have communicated that better. I could have told you I was busy. Something along the lines of that. And then that response, that example response, would have taken the responsibility and explained it better, and also, just making the other person feel like they're heard. I think that defensiveness is common because no one likes to be criticized. I know I don't. But the problem with this is that people, keep defending themselves. Nobody actually listens. Then the issue is like it never really gets solved. Right, so it's just this kind of cycle, I guess. And then in a friendship, you know, over time, I suppose that could build some resentment. Luckily, I haven't had that happen in this one. Yeah, it builds resentment because, you start feeling like you can't share your problems with this person that you used to be able to. Yeah, and then, okay, for the last part of this reflection, the third part, I took the love language quiz, and my main love language was quality time. I think that, or not I think, that result definitely made a lot of sense to me because I usually feel closest to people when they actually spend time with me and, are being present. um, that doesn't, have to, be anything like doing something crazy or, planned out. I don't even like going to the gym together with my friend. That's good enough for me. Getting some food after, or just getting food. Driving in the car, talking on the porch, going on a walk, and just talking for an hour. That's perfectly fine with me. And I think it shows that they care a lot because it's something simple, but I think a lot of people kind of look over it. And then I think this result was, like I kind of said before, is expected because I've noticed that I care more about someone making some time for me rather than like buying me a gift or something like buying a gift or whatever, giving you something. Oh, where was I? Lost it. Yeah, or even like compliments, really. I think, words are nice, obviously. Like, who doesn't appreciate some kind words? But I think if someone says that they care and never, they can say they care all they want, but if, they're not hanging out or talking to you, like a real conversation, it doesn't feel the same, for me at least. And then for me, I think spending time together is what makes like a relationship feel real. I also think that understanding love languages can support communication. That's because people can show care in different ways. For example, like me, or not like me, sorry. For example, someone might need words of affirmation, like being told they're appreciated. Um, or someone might show love through acts of service or, helping out with something. But if people, you know, don't understand that, they might just miss the way someone is trying to show they care, right? You gotta understand all of it. Or they might just feel like ignored, even if the other person thinks they're showing love. Like, if you want to just spend time with someone and someone's always giving you gifts, right? The person giving you gifts could think that's the way I show that I love someone, but the other person's thinking, I just want to spend time. I don't need all these gifts. You got to find what what the person actually wants. And then I think in my friendship, I think knowing that quality time matters to me, or it's really quality time matters to both of us. We're pretty similar in that way. We can communicate our needs more clearly, instead of just getting all annoyed and thinking, oh, they don't care or whatever. I can just recognize what I actually want and what they actually want, and put more effort into spending time together. Um, but I think at the same time, I also have to remember that my friend sometimes might show care differently, right? It's they support it, or they show it by checking in or giving some advice or helping with something practical or helping me on an assignment or explaining something, whatever, all these different things. So I think the love language quiz it's definitely not perfect, but if more people took it, it better helps people understand people. And then kind of a conclusion, I guess. Overall, this relationship shows that relationships often form through things like similarity, but they're maintained through effort, support, communication, relational tensions like autonomy versus connection. They're normal things, right? But they still need to be handled pretty carefully. And then the Four Horsemen video also reminds us, or me, that small communication habits like defensiveness can do some serious damage to a relationship if they happen too often or for long enough. And then finally, like I said not too long ago, the love language quiz, it helped me think about how people give and receive care differently. And then lastly, the biggest thing that I took away from this reflection is that healthy relationships, they don't just happen automatically. There's awareness, patience. You have to be willing to actually listen to the other person in the relationship, and even when stuff's uncomfortable, I think it's pretty important. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's 18 minutes, not 7. Whatever. Good enough.